Most of the times, Baba, we call her Baba, but means a grandma. And she went to get the food. Now, during the week, she would work and make things, clothing for the children, for maybe adults, whatever materials she had. And usually she had to buy it. And so Friday comes, she has to go early in the morning to the small towns to trade for the food. And so Danielle, the lady that she was a landlady, and she says, Emilia, come, I'll show you, I'll help you. And my mother would tell me and John, and we had a little sister Pauline, and she was approximately 10 months old, maybe even a little bit younger. Yes, younger, I think, because we had to change the diapers.
And you were how old?
And I was 5 years old. And so she would say, Magda, you watch, when you hear the planes, you get underneath the table. And you stay there and you pray. And so John and I, we did obedient. We just, anything, we listened, made sure. We'd never open the door to anyone, and we stayed quiet. And so that particular day, the planes were flying about noontime, 1 o'clock, over our house, and they were bombarding River Salva bridges. And we're not very far, maybe, 5 miles away from there. And so sometimes they miss, and then it fell right behind our house, the yard, the people were, further down. And so we are listening to that, and suddenly I hear these planes coming in. In the meantime, the husband from Danielle, Uncle Joe, he's knocking on the door. God probably told him, go and see what the children are doing. Maybe his wife told him, look on the children. So he's knocking on the door, and I ask, who is it? And he says, Uncle Joe. So I open, and I said, quick, come underneath the table. So I closed the door.
And was he a believer or not?
I'm sorry?
Was he a believer or not?
No, he was, he was so much against God, because when he lost his daughter, he blamed God for everything. He hated Seventh-day Adventists. He hated the church, everything that has to do with God. And so he got in, and I told him, I said, get underneath the table. So I quickly got in the middle. John was on the right side, and he was on the left. But he could get in, he was kneeling, and only the half of his body was underneath. And so I told him, we pray. So I prayed, and then John continued praying, and then I pray. And then so John would hold the little Pauline while I was opening the door, and then he would give it to me, then I would hold Pauline, and we were praying. The baby never cried. And suddenly I see Uncle Joe had the tears. And I think, oh, he must be afraid. So I told him, I said, Uncle Joe, you don't have to be afraid. Jesus is watching over Daniel and my mom, and they're going to be okay. They're going to come home. And, I'm consoling him, telling him, the positive things. And the man cried, and then after the planes stopped flying, it was, okay, sirens blare, it's done, the raid is over, and he goes home. Many, many years, we were here in this country, but we lived in New York at that time. We heard that he was baptized in Seventh-day Adventist Church. And that was his story, his conversion, that he realized that God is God of heaven and he answers the prayers. You never know. The words, the deeds, the way we live, what kind of impact has on the people. Children, they have an impact on people.